talking about is on the technology perspective, uh, which everybody has been talking at a buzzword, and some people trying to implement the same thing in their organization. And that's what is the technology is going to take us in the future, say 2030, 2040, and the way we are going to do the business. So the blockchain technology has been very kind of the most talked about topic as to how it's going to really revolutionize your businesses in times to come, right? And when we talk of the various disruptive technologies as per the Gartner, and those technologies which are going to be path-breaking, and that's what we are being, seeing, and even in the last panel where I was listening to that, the technologies which are everybody's talking of in manufacturing, and even the OT networks and everywhere. So some of the technologies which are today important are your IoT, that's the sensor, and which we all talk of, and of course the big data goes along with it, the amount of data which gets created. Then is your AI and the machine learning, because of all the unstructured data, the structured data, which is there is going to be processed, cleaned and put in the format, giving you your predictive analytics, your prescriptive analytics, and all those kind of things. And the main key point in the whole technology space is the blockchain, right? How do you authenticate different devices which are coming up in the network, with different transactions which are happening up in the network? Say, for example, you have the complete IoT network with 50 billion devices by 2022. That's what we are perceiving, and 75 billion by 2025. See the amount of data which is going to happen. How do we really, keep a tag of the data? How do we really, put the data a specific UID number, right? How do we really take out the data and analyze it in case anything goes wrong? So big data and the blockchain go hand in hand. And also, as when it comes to the IoT part of it, your other technologies which are there, the IIoT which we talk of, is all going to be using blockchain as a technology. So how blockchain is going to be working? The blockchain is primarily, it allows the interesting parties with common interests to co-create a permanent, unchangeable, and transparent record of exchange and processing without relying on the central authority. And that's the key to it. You don't require a central body for your blockchain. Say, for example, you have within your company itself, if you have an HR department, you have, you have your customer department, you have other departments which are there. Now, what you're primarily doing today is you're interacting the complete data through the server, right? And the server may be in cloud for that matter. And if you have to interact with other companies, you're also interacting with the cloud, right? And your applications are all working in silos. Say, for example, your SAP application is working in a silo with a CRM, right? It's a hypothetical case. I'm just saying that. Now, if you need, to have the interaction within them, you go to the central body, the central authority for interaction. Whereas when you have a blockchain, you have the distributed ledgers, and these ledgers are kind of updated anytime when a transaction happens. And that's the power of blockchain. So the blockchain is all about your digital transformation, what we are talking about, your analytics of your data, what we are talking about, the anonymity of your data, your security of your data. And because blockchain gives you the kind of capability that it cannot be hacked. It's got a very high level of cybersecurity component into it. If you're going to be, kind of thinking of hacking a blockchain, you need to really take control of 51% of the nodes to hack a blockchain, right? Your transactions are controlled. Your transactions are identifiable. Your data, you're trusting it, and it's immutable. You have the digital ledgers which are there, and it's secure communication. And it's also got a distributed ledger. So that's the kind of blockchain, capabilities what we have, and I'll be discussing more on it in the further slide, right? Once you write in any of the blocks, you cannot change it. And to give you a simple example, is like just like your grandma sewing a sweater, and if she found there's an error in the middle of the sweater, you know, she had to really unopen and go to that point and try and clear it up. Now, just think if that's the situation in your real time, you cannot unchange anything, right? Once you write it, it's written. And once you write it, if you want to make any changes, it has to go to every one of the nodes, every ledger of the network to make that change, which is not possible. And it leverages encryption, right? It gives you a business logics and rules which are very specific to your organization, right? And they are enforced. Like I'll be discussing about the different type of blockchain, how a blockchain primarily is, working. So there are something called a smart contract. It's a kind of a token which moves between one transaction to another to authenticate it, right? And it's a geo-distributed consensus. So geolocation is not a problem, and it's got abundance of the use case, right? And it's immutable, which I told earlier, and secure, right? And it's all about the data and the trust, what we are doing, and that is going to change the way we are going to do business, right? That is what is the power of the blockchain. And to tell you what IT did to us in 1990, blockchain is going to do to us in the times to come. The way we saw the internet in 1990 changed our lives, and today also, we are all online using the data, and using the internet. Same way, blockchain is going to revolutionize the way we work. The complete internet also is going to go, to a change where we'll have a kind of a distributed architecture of the complete internet, from the centralized internet. So it's a huge difference it's going to create. And to give you a perspective of some of the terms, what we use very commonly in blockchain, we use distributed ledger. Distributed ledger is nothing else. Just take, for example, it's a normal register which you have, which you should write with a pen. And whenever any changes were done, we were able to do it earlier. But now just imagine that register is digital, and if we have to make any change, we have to update all the digital ledgers all across the network, right? That's the digital ledger or the distributed ledgers which are there. And we use a lot of cryptographic, algorithms in the blockchain, which are timestamped to keep the list of records within the block. So everything is a block based. So you have the records in the block, and they are all timestamped. And there's a cryptographic key which ensures that it is secure, it is immutable, it cannot be altered. The sequence of the blocks are maintained, and it maintains any collision from happening. And what enables it? That's the smart contract. And smart contract is a small program which I told you, which verifies, enforces, and does a negotiation or a contractual clause. And how it works, I'll just be just telling you how it happens. Now, the blockchain came up, and when we talk about the blockchain for the business, I'll just tell you here. If you're all aware, blockchain practically came as an offset of the Bitcoin. And Bitcoin started in year 2009 when Satoshi Nakamoto came up with one of his concept paper of the Bitcoin algorithms, and thereafter we are seeing so much of digital currency in the market today, and there are almost 1,500 types of digital currencies which are there today, right? Now the underlying technology under the blockchain which authenticates that the hash codes which are there are the blockchain under the Bitcoin, right? So now what happens is that all across the Bitcoin, they have been mined, and there are a lot of hash codes which are there. There are different platforms for the blockchains like Ethereum, Hyperledger, and a number of other platforms which are there. Now, what practically happens is that this blockchain was never thought to be made for a business organization or for an enterprise. Because if you look at from the architecture of the Bitcoin that was universal architecture. And today also, you have different mining centers, different data centers which are mining the Bitcoin, and you're creating the blockchain, and that's how it's really happening. Okay, and the nodes are all across. So there are, say for example, there are 15,000 nodes for the Bitcoin which are mining today, and all those blockchains are working. But if I have to move the complete architecture of that blockchain to your company or your organization, it won't work because it was not designed to work. So that is where the blockchain comes in a different flavors. The what I told you with the Bitcoin, that is the one which is kind of the public blockchain. Then you have something called a private blockchain, and then you have a mix of public and a private that's called the hybrid blockchain. And there are different flavors of the blockchain which are there, like I showed on the view file. Your Ethereum, that's the public blockchain. Then you have the Ripple, Hyperledger, Agor, Slot IP, Open Chain, and there are different organizations, in fact, doing a lot of work on the blockchain platform. And all IBM, Linux, Microsoft, they're all gone in for the developing these kind of platforms. And now the focus is to build a blockchain for the business or the organization. And that's where they're talking about the blockchain as a service. That means you may have different applications, whether you have a SAP application, your CRM application, your HR application, your operations application, your project management application, whatever you may have. Presently, when they work in silos, using the blockchain as a service, as a platform, you can, bring them together and, work in the organization, and you can create, kind of nodes within your organization to work. And that's what I was, trying to tell you, that it was not built for the enterprise, and because the ledgers are being designed for the public network, and they lack the performance, confidentiality, governance capability needed for the commercial. But then we talk about the private blockchain, which is more so for the enterprise. Then is a smart contract. Again, the smart contracts were not designed to leverage the existing enterprise tools in the skill set, but now we are going ahead with that kind of thing. And of course, the integration, working as a blockchain as a service, and putting all your softwares together under the one basket, right? And some of the pain points for the industries which are there, it's hard to understand this technology, and everybody's too focused about the technology, and it requires more time to, in fact, understand it, put it into the actual business use. And one thing which is we are finding is that it's hard to find the business benefit right now. It's a buzzword with someone. Practically, I just told you, like it's authenticating, it's telling you the way to do the business, but then there's a different level of understanding between corporates. They're not sure what needs to be done with the blockchain, right? And that's how practically happens. And but there's a kind of a offshoot to it. If you understand what what you want to do with the blockchain, you'll definitely try and implement it, and that's how it really works. And there are lots of token sale which is happening. You would also come to know that every startup which is there, they come up with the ICO, and they start selling up the security tokens. They start selling up other kind of tokens which are there, and all across for funding for the different businesses. So it's created a negative sentiment at some point in time as to how you're going to be using the token, right? And that's where it's gone in for more negative than the positive part of it. And it's definitely going towards the positive path. That's what I see in times to come. I'm definitely seeing a lot of traction in the organizations, in the business world, when it comes to the imbibing the blockchain technology as a whole. And this is where is the present set. What you have is you have the intermediaries, you have the manual verification methods which you're implementing today, whether it's the manufacturing, whether it's the services, right, which are slow and costly. But with the blockchain, you definitely can reduce costs, you can save on time, you can save on the kind of money what you're investing in a long run, and it will lower the risk with the using the blockchain, right? And this is the kind of a centralized versus decentralized, where you are able to, in a kind of a centralized environment, there are human errors and fraud, there are intermediaries, there are frequent delays which are there, and there are a lot of losses to the stakeholders which come up. Whereas if you have a blockchain, right, you have a shared ledger that is tamper-proof, and once anything you record into it, you cannot change that. It cannot be deleted. It cannot be altered. And how it has been done? All the ledgers they have a consensus mechanism where they all agree to the changes, agree to the every input which is there, the hash code. That is why it takes some time whenever you do a transaction, and that's another point where your number of transactions per second in some of the blockchain platforms were very less. In earlier times, it's just 7 or 10 transactions per second, as compared to your Visa cards where you are able to do 2 lakh transactions per second, right? And but the advantage is it reduces a lot of paperwork, and it speeds up the transactions, and it also increases the efficiency of anything what you're doing, right? So this is where your data is stored in ledger. So if you look at this view file, I'll just show you. These are the kind of ledgers where you're storing the data, and all the records of every transactions have been kept, and everyone in the network knows about this transaction. That's the beauty of it. It's so transparent, and it's all identical copy. So there is no case of cheating which can happen, right? And it's all secure. It's tamper-proof, so immutable. So lots of things, lots of advantages which are there, and every time anything happens, it's through consensus, and the information cannot be altered and deleted without knowledge of the whole network. And some of the roadblocks to the enterprise adoption, which I was trying to say, and lots of blockchain, platforms are coming up with a better, kind of transactions per second. They have come up with the 200 transactions per second. Also, there's a DeFi platform which is pretty fast, but this is kind of, as a average which I had worked it out, and as a throughput, it's around 7 to 20 transactions per second wasn't enough. Latency, 10 minutes for updating the complete network or the nodes, it was too slow. And the other part which is that 50% is laughable for a database, so that's increased, and there are a lot of changes which we are seeing. And the traditional blockchain was not being used, but the changes which are happening today, the hyperledger is a much more advanced version of that. And one more thing which has come up, the chain link, which is for the DeFi, that the distributed finance blockchain, that is pretty fast, and that's what people are trying to work on. This I've already covered, I think. So not all blockchains are same. That's what I was just telling you, that earlier it was on the public blockchain, where you have the bitcoins, you have the Ethereum, you have the other kind of networks which are there, and it is all distributed across the globe. And if you wanted to implement this kind of architecture for your organization, it would have never worked. But definitely, what we have is a permissioned blockchain. Permissioned blockchain means it's within the company, and this is a kind of a private blockchain where you're kind of everything is permissioned. You have all the nodes are authenticated, which is practically define the earlier role of a permissionless and a public blockchain. So those kind of things which are different in the permission blockchain, and Hyperledger, Archicoda, and all, they are the pretty good blockchain platforms which one can use it. And these are the kind of blockchain platforms quite oftenly used by a lot of people for their companies. Now they are trying to do it in the private blockchain. People are using Hyperledger. That's quite famous. And in the hybrid, the Archicoda is kind of quite known. And in the public blockchain, people, when they started working on a lot of application development, was the kind of Ethereum. So that's the blockchain which is being used by different companies to start up with. Right? So there are lots of use cases, and it really meets the enterprise need if you look at it. Uh, you can have the business process crosses the trust boundaries, so you really don't have to really untrust anything. In this case, it's being trusted when you're doing a business, and multi-party, work off the same data. So that's the advantage when I was telling you that the data is there in the ledgers and it's being updated simultaneously in all the nodes. And intermediaries control the single source of truth. So that's where it is, and it really works out good for any company to avoid the manual processing, right? So lots of things get automated, and how it's getting automated? That's what the smart contract which I told you, right? And across the industry, it free up the capital flows, it lowers the transaction cost. I'll come up with one of the examples. You automatically will come to know how I'm trying to tell you how you're lowering the transaction cost. It speeds of the processes. Case in point, I'll just give you an example of insurance. Say, for example, you want to claim an insurance, and today you have to go through so much of process to get your insurance claims. Whereas if you're having a blockchain-based insurance, right? Anytime you have any accident or any kind of insurance claims that you put up, the trigger has been takes place, and that process starts, right? And it's been all done automatically, and practically you really don't have to run behind those insurance companies to give you the insurance. So that's how it really helps the industry and the companies to fasten up their process, and how it is transforming the business. And what practically it's doing is today and tomorrow is that there are multiple versions of trust to a single source of truth, right? And there's a complete real-time processing 24/7 which happens in this case, and there are multiple system vulnerabilities to hack things. So there are lots of things which are advantages when you're using the blockchain. To give you the overall perspective of how the blockchain looks from today and tomorrow and next 10 years, in the cycle. So this is the Gartner scale of 2019, and if you look at it, there's so much of impetus on various blockchains coming up. So if any company says that I'm implementing the blockchain, I'm going to be implementing it very fast, so that is not happening. But definitely, they're all going to be in pipeline. They're all going to be like they're in 2 to 5 years cycle, 5 to 10 years cycle. So that is where we look at it, and smart contract, which is at the peak of inflated expectation, that is at the peak. So smart contracts of the blockchain is most important. What is of most important? The blockchain itself, but though it is at the turf of the distribution, because everybody, if you go back to 2 years back, and everybody was talking on the blockchain, right? And the way I told you, they didn't know what's the implementation of the blockchain, whether it will really give them the right benefit, because the right blockchain also is so important for you to understand, right? The other distribution was the ICOs, and there are a lot of scams which happened because of the ICOs, and people took money for development and they vanished. Lots of cases all across, which happened, and this was the real point of concern of the ICOs, taking a backseat, and thereafter it actually hampered the blockchain development also. And but what I want to bring out that these things which you see in the dark blue circles, right? These are the kind of blockchains which we are going to see the complete implementation in 5 to 10 years. So it's not just overnight. If anybody is saying that I'm implementing a blockchain, I'm done with it, I think take it with a pinch of salt. Definitely, there are lots of things which require to be done as regards the blockchain and implementation and stabilizing the blockchain as a whole, right? And this is after a lot of study. So it's not a kind of graph which has been just created by 5-7 people. It's been done after due diligence world across, taking different industry, cross industry, large industries, Fortune 500 companies, and all this stuff. And this is where I was trying to talk the turf of disillusionment. We are there in 2020 to 2022, where we saw there's almost a huge amount of the business ideas we saw in the year 2020. We thought that we'll be able to implement law of blockchain, and that's not happening right now, right? And if you look at the disillusionment it is going through, and this is going to be there for next couple of years till 2022, 23, and then it's really going to pick up. Okay, but the good part of the blockchain is we expecting almost $3.1 trillion industry at the end of 2030. That's what I was trying to say. Your internet is going to change. Your complete way, the way you work is going to change, and it's going to really add economic value globally to you. So that's where the blockchain is practically happening. And presently, what we are trying to talk is only the public, private, hybrid, consortia blockchain. Whereas, when we'll be talking of in 2024, 25, when we've gone past the turf of disillusionment, it's going to be programmable economy based on the blockchain. So that's how it's really going to work. And that's the real time, when we're going to be seeing the actual use cases of blockchain happen, right? And this is how in terms of the numbers, the blockchain is that there's only 10% of enterprises will achieve any radical transformation with the use of blockchain technology. And by 2022, at least one innovative business built on blockchain technology will be worth 10 billion. It's going to pick up in times to come. And by 2026, that's the time when we are, gone past that turf of disillusionment. It will grow to almost 360 billion. That's really a huge number. And finally reach up to 3.1 trillion by 2030. And just see the amount of, blockchain what we're going to be seeing by 2030, right? So you really need to understand as to what blockchain you require, right? And the private blockchain, when we say, is very important for your solving your efficiency and the fraud problems in the company. You can practically use it. And if you look at the public blockchain again, which we discussed, these are the kind of public blockchain which are already there, and it is equivalent to the internet of 1990s. Whereas the other part of the blockchain is the federated blockchain, your private blockchain, and the hybrid blockchain. It is the intranet of 1990s. That's how you can really differentiate between internet and intranet in those parlance. The blockchain is going to be, because private blockchain is purely internal to your company, and the federated blockchain is again, partially between in and out. And these are the kind of blockchain technologies which are going to take you further when we talk of it. And it's practically internet of blockchain. That's the terminology we can use it when we talk of federated blockchain and private blockchain, right? But a bigger question: do every industry require a blockchain? And that due diligence is required to be done. And what kind of blockchain which you need practically needed, whether it's a permissionless public blockchain or a permissioned public blockchain. You have to really work on what kind of blockchain you wanted, what kind of anonymity which you want to have in your network. So those kind of questions practically you can put into different templates which are there. There's a fantastic table which gives you kind of the output, whether you actually require a blockchain and what kind of blockchain you really require to work it out in your company, right? So some of the use cases, like I was just telling you, blockchain is can be used in most of the organization, and you would have seen on the internet also, on the LinkedIn, everywhere. Everybody says that blockchain is going to revolutionize the way we work. Different segments. The list goes short while we talk of different segments which the blockchain is going to be there across industries, and the use cases and applications which really help industries as regards to the blockchain is concerned. In case of the manufacturing, I've just listed out, it's highlighted in yellow so that cutting on the time. You can have asset tracking. You can have the supply chain transparency. That's the major use case for blockchain, and it encompasses all your IoT, your big data analytics, your AI, your ML, all put together, right? Then you have the dynamic commodity pricing, which you can use it. Then for the retail, it's pretty attractive use cases in loyalty tracking, product proven, logistic management, P2P selling, ticket purchases. What you can do that, in insurance, I was just telling you, real-time insurance is one of the kind of the best use case which I always find when it comes to implementing a blockchain for in the industry, right? And your fraud detection, there are lots of insurance frauds which happen, claim management, your property payments, your NDS, and automated underwriting. So everything is possible there. Then is the banking. Banking is one area, again, a huge use case, and one specific blockchain which is coming up, and that is going to revolutionize the complete banking sector. That's called DeFi. And then DeFi is the DEFI, and it's a distributed finance, and it's going to practically revolutionize the way we do the banking today. We have a centralized banking system, and DeFi is really getting on to a decentralized banking system, automated loan issuance system, lots of benefits what it's going to give, and it's also doing the KYC, AML, global payments. So everything put together, DeFi will definitely revolutionize the banking as a whole. Then government, and of course, that we do have a challenge of Aadhaar, the PAN cards, fake PAN cards, fake Aadhaar cards, floating around here and there, and fake ID cards. So from the government perspective, blockchain plays a major role. You have blockchain-based voter cards, and one of the use cases is a blockchain-based voting. For a country like India, if you have a blockchain-based voting, you can see for yourself how best it would be that there'll be no fake voting, there'll be no long lines, there'll be no holiday for that. You just have to go access your internet from anywhere, vote for the party which you want to do it, and that's it, right? And then there's the copyright problems and benefit distribution. So those are the kind of advantages which are there. And of course, the health, with the sector which is picking up today, is the kind of compliance, your record sharing, your personalized medicine. So in effect, blockchain applications are helping anyone in the asset transfer proven, your cross-organizational workflows, and high assurance audits, which you're able to do. So one example which I'll give you before I will close. I think I took more time than what I was supposed to. So this is a supply chain management example, and a safe example that the producer has to send all the produce which is there world across. And in the present day system, it goes bad. It's a big problem, and half the produce which actually when it reaches the end user, it would have not been in the form which it was supposed to be at the time of produce. So in this case, what happens? A producer, say for example, the milk produce, he does that, sends for the food processor, and he sealed it, and these are all IoT devices. Where now take yourself back to the first slide where I showed you the IoT, the big data, AI, ML, all those things which were there, the sensors, and all this data, when it is being implemented while we are using the blockchain, it is authenticating all the transactions. So here you have the smart contract which gets activated, and you have the smart contract which says that the temperature has to be maintained at less than 10 degrees and the humidity of 65%. If this is not maintained, the smart contract will trigger, right? This is at the time of the produce. So what happens? At the carrier one, it does it. It's the temperature is been maintained at 9%, 9 degrees and 64%. And thereafter, the warehouse also it's been able to do it. Carrier two, it's able to do it. Now, when it happens at the carrier two, the temperature is 66%. 66 degrees, 11 degrees and 66% is the humidity. So now here the smart contract will practically, trigger off. And this is where the contract is violated, and carrier 2 is liable to pay the penalty as the temperature of the package before it's being delivered, right, has been violated above the prescribed limit. So this is how you really check. And now you just see if you are using it for the medicine, for the cancer medicine. Most of the time when the cancer medicine reaches the end user, nobody knows whether the temperatures are being maintained or not, right? This is only one use case which I'm pulling, and they're all having the RFID tags, which are the IoT enabled, and they are giving all the big data and the data which is there, which is being processed, going back, and all the data is going through the nodes. The blockchain is doing the smart contract. That's how really we're working on the supply chain management, and this is one of the wonderful examples which is there. So to wind up finally, the blockchain primarily saves time for the transactions from days to near
Hello.
minutes, and it removes the cost.
Hello.
And yeah, please.
Yeah. Hi, Inderjeet. Actually, we are running out of time. Can you?
I've already told I'm winding up.
Okay. Okay.
So this is my last slide. I already told that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it reduces the risk, and it's uh, from the tempering. And okay, I've finished. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Any questions, anyone, please?